Okay, I've got a fantastic game for you between Daniel Quizon of the Philippines. He is the current champion of the Philippines right now. He is on the verge of being a Grand Master. I think he will be a Grand Master very soon. He just needs another good Grand Master tournament to get under his belt. He does he has Grand Master norms already. You can see he was born in 2004, so he's about 18 years old. And he's playing against this Vietnamese champion, Van Huy Nguyen. I'm probably messing up both of their names. I apologize. Please correct me in the comments. I could use the help. Born in 1985. He's the two-time champion of Vietnam, and he is a Grand Master. Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into the game here. Daniel begins with pawn to e4, and we have pawn to C6 by the Grand Master. This is opening up for the Carl Khan defense. I missed it, Carl Khan. I haven't seen it in a couple years since pre-COVID because of, well, yeah, I haven't played. A gentleman that that got me into chess coaching, actually, he loves the Carl Khan. We have pawn to D4 by Daniel, and now pawn to D5. That's the whole idea with the, pushing the pawn here for the Carl Khan. Is so that you can do an early push with D5. We now have knight to D2, which is a bit of a strange one. Usually the knight goes here, but this is just as good. This works out as well, especially when they play pawn capture. So he plays knight to D2. Then we have pawn captures on E4 by the Grand Master, and now knight captures on D4 or E4. And that was the whole point of putting that knight in kind of a strange spot. Otherwise, is that he's usually going to be moving pretty quickly. And we have bishop to F5 by the Grand Master, and now knight to G3. This is all book stuff. It's been played tens of thousands of times at this point. So this is known theory. We now have bishop back to G6 by the Grand Master, and now pawn to H4. And I've actually played this all myself. Oh, well, actually, no, that's not true. I've played, and the only difference is I played knight to C3 here, but it ends up turning out to the exact same thing. I've seen this scenario over the board, although it's been a couple years, unfortunately. Now we have pawn to H6 as the bishop is about to be trapped, so you got to leave some luft in case, yeah, there's a trap there. You can go ahead and push the pawn and win the bishop if they're not careful. So that's why that's done. So we have pawn to H6, and now we have knight to F3 by Daniel, and now pawn to E6 by the Grand Master. Knight now to E5, attacking the bishop. This is, again, a move I've played before. I've seen this exact same position myself. And this position has been played tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times in recorded play. This is the best move in the position, knight to E5, and the bishop does drop back. So now you see the purpose, part of the purpose of that pawn push there. So knight drops back to H7, or bishop drops back to H7, and now we have bishop to D3, and of course, which is the best move in the position, and then bishop captures back on D3, and of course queen captures on D3 by Daniel. And this seems like it should be a substantial advantage for white. He's got both of his knights developed. The queen is out there too. White is a lot closer to castling to either side, although queen side's probably best. So seems like it should be a big advantage for white, which is why I play very similar in the Carl Khan. And now we have knight to D7 by the Grand Master, and queen to E2 by Daniel. And this is the best move in the position, although it's not the most common move. It was only like third most common. We now have knight to F6 by the Grand Master. And that was knight G to F6, I should say, because either knight could go to F6. It was developing the G knight to F6. And now we have bishop to D2 by Daniel. And now pawn to C5, which is an inaccuracy. This is not the best move in the position. It's just inefficient in general. You move that pawn once, now you're moving them again before you've developed other pieces. Usually in the opening, you want to be as efficient as possible. Would have been better to develop the bishop to E7 instead, but let's continue. We now have knight captures on D7 by Daniel, and now queen captures on D7. That was the best move in the position. And now Daniel captures the c5 pawn. We have d captures c5, and of course now bishop captures c5. And now we have queen to c6 by the grandmaster, and now bishop to c3 by Daniel. This is the best move in the position, and again, something that's been played many times. Bishop now back to e7. That's the best move in the position here, as kind of the destabilization here. If bishop captures, pawn captures, and then the king has nowhere to go. So again, this was the best move in the position, bishop to e7, and now we have knight to h5 by Daniel, and it is as of this move, move 17, that this has never been played before. So most of this, so up until this point, this has been played many times, at least dozens of times in high levels of play, but this is a brand new game now. We now have knight captures on h5. This is the best move in the position. Of course, queen captures on h5 as well. And now we have bishop to f6 by the grandmaster, and this is actually being called a blunder here. It would have been better to play rook to c8 instead, and we'll go ahead and take a quick journey into that variation. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Should have played rook to c8, and then best move for white would be lifting the rook to h3, queen now to c4. Pawn then attacks, and the rook is defending here, so the queen unlikely to capture. So pawn to b3 here. Queen now moves to f4, check, attacking the loose pawn. We have king now to b2. Now castles kingside by black. And now queen to f3, trying to save that pawn there. And then best for black would be go ahead and captures, and of course rook captures back. Now rook f to d8. Rook captures on d8. Rook captures back on d8. And now best for white would be rook to g3. And they would probably push the pawn here. And yeah, this would be a better position. We're jumping right into the endgame here. But this would be a better situation for black had they played this. But he did not play this. He blundered. He played bishop to d7 or e7 instead. We'll go back to that variation. He played bishop to f6 here, and that was a blunder. We now have the best move by Daniel. Bishop captures on f6. And of course, pawn captures f6. And yeah, that does look unfortunate to me. White's nicely castled, and doesn't look like black's king is going to have a lot of safety. He's going to have to castle to the queen side. And now we have rook to e1. So rook h to e1 by Daniel. And then we have rook now to c8 by the grandmaster. The engine suggesting it would have been better to push the king to e7 instead, connecting the rooks, but the variation is not that much different, so we'll go ahead and continue. We now have rook to d2 by Daniel. Now we do see king to e7, so this ends up turning out to the same thing. And now we have pawn to g3 by Daniel. And the engine saying this is a mistake. He should have instead just doubled the rooks here because, yeah, we've got this nice checking threat, and, you know, the queen is already attacking that pawn, so that would have put a lot more pressure on the position. So, yeah, the g3 move was just a little bit weak. Of course, Daniel was just trying not to lose his pawn there as it was attacked, so it does make some sense, but we'll go ahead and continue. We now have the rook lift to c7, which now prevents that threat of, you know, with the rook coming over, which it would have been played anyway. If rook to d1, black would have had to play rook to c7, so it all works out the same. And now we do see the rook coming over, so the variation ends up working out the same, which is why we didn't go into it. And now queen to a4, attacking the pawn directly on a2, so that's got to be dealt with. King to b1 by Daniel. And now we have the best move in the position by the grandmaster, pawn to f5. And Daniel now plays the best move as well, pawn to f3. And we have queen now back to c6, putting, well, I guess not really putting pressure on anything other than just keeping an eye on that pawn and, you know, this pawn as well, but both are well defended currently. And now we have rook to e1 by Daniel, taking advantage of the pin, so you could actually pick up this pawn if they're not paying attention here. The engine doesn't really like this move. It's saying it's a mistake. He should have pushed this pawn first. But okay, we're going to continue. We now have queen to c5 by the Grandmaster, and now we do see pawn to c3 by Daniel, and now we have pawn to b5 by the Grandmaster. Best move in the position. He's got to do something to get at this king, and throwing these a and b pawns would make a lot of sense. And now we have rook D to E2, doubling the rooks on the D file. The engine actually saying this is a mistake. He should have instead doubled the rooks on the D file, brought the other rook over. This variation actually should let the Grandmaster get back into the game. Let's actually look at that other variation. So instead, White should have played rook to D1 here. We then have pawn to b5 by Black, best move in the position. Pawn captures to b5, so c captures b5. Queen captures b4, excuse me, this is on b4. Queen captures b4. We have pawn to a3, attacking the queen. Queen now to b3. Got to get that queen out of there, so Daniel or White would play rook to d3, kicking the queen. We would have queen to c2 check. King now to a1, and this should have been a better position. According to Stockfish, this would have been a better position. It's saying that Daniel would be kind of have the advantage. He'd be up in the position. If you look at the pawn structure, White is winning. You know, White's pawns are nicely connected. Meanwhile, Black has 3 pawn islands. He's got doubled pawns, so it's just kind of gross. But let's go back to actually what happened on the chessboard. Okay, so instead, Daniel doubled on the e file with rook d e2. We now have best move in the position by Black, queen to d5. And now Daniel moves his king over to a1. And the engine doesn't like this move either, saying he should have just pushed this pawn instead. But let's go ahead and continue. We now have queen to d3, which is a blunder. He should have played rook to d7 first. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that variation now. So first, should have played the Grandmaster should have played rook to d7, and then best would be pawn to a3 for White, queen now to b3 for Black. Now rook back to c1 would be the best move for White. Rook lifts to d5 by Black, pawn to g4 by White, queen back to c4, attacking the rook, and then White would be forced to move the rook. e1 is the best place for it. Pawn captures on g4, queen captures on g4, queen captures again on g4, queen captures queen, and then of course pawn captures on g4, and then pawn to f6. Probably best move then would be rook to e4, pawn then to h5, pawn now to c4 by White, pawn captures on c4, pawn captures on h5 by White, rook captures on h5, and now pawn captures on c4, and this position would have worked out better for Black. Black basically has chances to be ahead according to Stockfish. According to Stockfish, he would have a slight advantage. With the move he actually played on the board, White is totally winning. Or, well, White has a solid advantage. Let's go back to that variation. So the Grandmaster actually plays queen to d3 here. Daniel then plays rook to e5. And yeah, this is considered a blunder. Black has a chance to get back into the game and even things up. It would have been better to play rook to e3, chase the queen out. But we're not going to go into that variation just now since we just went into a long variation. Let's just continue from here. We have pawn to b4 by the grandmaster. The engine suggesting he should have just moved his king here. That would have been a stronger move, but let's continue. We now have rook captures pawn on f5 as it's hanging there. That's a free pawn. This was the best move in the position for Daniel. We now have rook to f8, which is not the best move. It would have been better to get the king out of this pin situation and move the king to f8 instead, but let's go ahead and continue. And now we have rook to d1 attacking the queen, taking advantage of that pin. Of course, you know, so if queen takes rook, queen captures back, and then, yeah, you can't capture with the pawn as it's absolutely pinned. So this is the best move in the position that Daniel plays. And the grandmaster finds the strongest move in the position, queen to g6. We now have queen to e5 by Daniel. This is the best move in the position, of course, attacking the c7 rook. And now the grandmaster does find the best response. He plays rook f to c8. And now we have queen to d6 by Daniel. This is the best move in the position. King moves back to e8, the only move that makes any sense. And now we have queen captures pawn on b4. And we have queen captures pawn on g3 by the grandmaster. Daniel drops his d rook back to d1. This is the best move in the position. We now have rook to c4 by the grandmaster attacking Daniel's queen. So, of course, she's got to reposition. Best spot for her is on a3, attacking the a7 pawn. Queen now back to c7, forming Alekine's gun. So Alekine's gun, you know, when you triple the rooks and the queen like this, Alekine, I think it was like, was he the 4th world champion or the 3rd? Anyway, let's continue. We now have rook to g1 by Daniel. This is the best move in the position. And now we have rook back to c5 by the grandmaster. The engine actually saying trying to get a queen trade here would have been best. Moving the queen there instead would have been a better move. But either way, white is totally winning. So let's just go ahead and continue. We now have rook to g8 by Daniel, checking the king. We have king to e7. Rook captures on c8. Queen captures on c8. And now queen takes pawn on a7 by Daniel. And Daniel is now up 2 points here. That's the best move in the position, of course. And now king to f6 by the grandmaster. And rook to d7 by Daniel. King runs to g6. We have rook captures on f7. Daniel now up 3 points. King to h5, trying to get out of this mess. Rook to g7 now by Daniel. Best move by black is queen to f8, and the grandmaster does play that. Queen to f8. And now rook comes all the way down back to g1. This is the best move in the position. Rook to d5 by the grandmaster. And now we have queen all the way over to h7 by Daniel. Queen now to f6 by the grandmaster. Definitely a solid move, one of the best. Also, queen to f5 works, although the position is totally lost at this point. If white plays precisely, there's nothing that black can do. Look at this pawn structure over here. That's an absolute whip hand. You can just trade. If you're playing for white, you just trade off the pieces, and then that's unstoppable. You could just transfer those pawns to knights and have a heyday. I mean, obviously, knights is not the best way to go. It would just be more fun. Let's continue. Queen to e4 by Daniel, best move in the position. The grandmaster seems like he wants to trade queens. He plays queen to f5 here. We have pawn now to a4 by Daniel. This is the best move in the position. Queen captures queen on e4 by the grandmaster, and of course pawn captures queen on e4. So f captures e4 by Daniel, and now rook to a5 by the grandmaster. Daniel decides he doesn't even need that pawn. He plays pawn to b4 here, sacrificing the a pawn. But yeah, we've got connected passed pawns versus a rook here. The king can come and help, so he doesn't care about that. By the way, that was the best move in the position. Pawn to d4 or b4 was the absolute best move that he could have played. And now we have rook captures on a4. We have king to b2, and now we have rook back to a8. We have pawn now to b5. King captures on a4, pawn to c4, pawn now to h5 by the grandmaster, the best move in the position. But now we have king to b3, and it is on this move 54, that black does resign. So the grandmaster, the Vietnamese champion, resigns to the Filipino champion. Yeah, so Daniel wins this game, beats the grandmaster, and adds him to the list of grandmasters that Daniel Quizon has taken down, and there has been many. So yeah, that's the end of the game, and really, there's just no way. Black's king is locked out, and so these two pawns versus so this yeah, this rook can just dance back and forth as needed if the king comes after him or something like that. There's no way he's going to get out of there, and there's no way that the king and these pawns are going to be stopped by the rook. So this is a totally lost position, and the grandmaster knew that, so he called it quits. Anyway, thank you for checking that out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. I will be posting game reviews every day. If you're interested in taking classes, I do group and individual classes. You can check that out on my Patreon, which there should be links in the descriptions. Let me know if there's a player that I should be covering. I have a lot of you from the Philippines that are interested in my reviews. So if there's another grandmaster that, or not another grandmaster, another interesting player that you would like me to cover, please let me know. Anyway, thank you. Bye-bye.